Well, hello everyone. We're back. We're packed our bags and we're travelling again. We're going to go on pilgrimage. My name's Father Chris Gorton and my co-presenter is
John Griffin. Hi everyone.
And John doing a great job throughout this lockdown. Time and again, I keep ringing him up and with ideas, and he's never been out yet, pretending he's not there. So, John, we've got a very special guest with us today. Do you know our guest? Have you met her?
I do, yeah. I've been to Walsingham a few times with our guest.
Well, there you go. Well, and it is none other than Anne Tipper.
Oh.
Anne.
Yes, Father Chris.
Oh, there we go. Now, Anne and I go back a long way, don't we, Anne?
We do. We go back to your early days at college.
Goodness me. That was in 1993, I believe.
It was. Yes.
How old were you then, John?
93, I would have been one.
Oh,
there you go. You probably had better table manners than I did then.
Well, I will vouch for that, yes. I won't say anything about the tomato sauce and the fish.
And you know, I was almost tempted to see how long you'd be able to go without mentioning that. We might come back to that story. But Anne and I, we have been on a number of pilgrimages together, haven't we, Anne?
We have.
In fact, not that long ago, we were in the Holy Land.
That's right.
More recently than that, we were up on Holy Island.
We went to follow the footsteps of the Northern Saints, didn't we?
We did, and that was terrific. That was.
It was.
And we're hoping to be on our travels again before too long. But we're going to go on a virtual pilgrimage to the Holy Land, using clips from when we went, not the last time, but the time before. Now, how many, you'll be impressed by this, John, right? If she knows the answer. She will know the answer, but it'll be a lot. Roughly, Anne, how many times have you been to the Holy Land?
Well, I've been fortunate to work for two wonderful companies, and my first opportunity was with Mancunia Travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I now work for Northern Star, which is based in Prestwich. And I was last in the Holy Land on my birthday, which was the 14th of February this year.
Is yours the 14th of February?
Yes, I'm a Valentine.
Joking, the day before my birthday.
Oh, well, that might be.
It's Our Lady's Feast, is it the 13th?
The 13th is. So the run is Our Lady, Anne Tipper. Then it's me.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, what a fantastic order.
Well, it's the right order, I'll tell you that.
But if I've kept count, and I've tried to think since we spoke last, and you asked me to do this, Father Chris, I would say if I was fortunate enough to go to the on pilgrimage next November, which I'm due to go with Northern Star. That would be my 74th time to the Holy Land.
Wow.
Well, I told you you'd be impressed, John. 74 times.
I know.
That's crazy.
Because, of course, in the early days, I would go 3 or 4 times a year.
Wow.
And the only time I had the break was when the Intifada took place. And that was the pilgrimage then. I still have fond memories of having to phone Father John Hitchin, who was at St. Richard's of York.
I sent him an email today, actually.
Right, to say, Father, we're due to fly out in 10 days' time, but we can't. Because of the trouble that had happened on Temple Mount.
Gosh,
So, yeah, I've been very fortunate. And as I said...
So you are the person to kick off our virtual pilgrimage. Have you had the chance to go yet, John, to the Holy Land?
Never know. I really like to go though.
Well, let's pray that will come, because there's something exceptional about the Holy Land. Somebody once said to me that the difference between going to the Holy Land and any other pilgrimages, when you go somewhere else, you're going following in those who are following Christ. But when you go to the Holy Land, you're walking in the footsteps of Jesus himself.
Yeah.
And that's what's incredible. So, Anne,
yes,
carte blanche. We can go where we want because it's virtual.
Right.
Where would you start off, apart from at Ben Gurion Airport, which you always like to go through?
Yes.
and tell everybody to behave,
Well, I just tell
and then
everybody
end
to
up
be
having an
quiet.
argument yourself. What?
Well, you know what the security's like at the airport. And, we just have to start our pilgrimage, we just have to be very courteous, answer the questions that were asked, i.e. why are we coming to this country? And I always say to the people that I travel with, is because we're coming on pilgrimage.
Right.
And so for me, whether you start in the Galilee region or whether you start in Jerusalem,
Let's start Galilee. Shall we go Galilee?
We'll go Galilee to start. Yes.
Preferably at the Ron Beach, because I like it there and it's got a swimming pool.
Yes, and it has the wonderful food, doesn't it, as well?
Very good.
So once we leave Ben Gurion Airport, we've got a 2 and 20-minute drive up the north to the Galilee region.
Because you see, the thing is, John, the Holy Land's about as big as Wales.
Right.
I mean, the country Wales.
Yes.
Sorry, carry on, Anne.
Right. So let's say we get to your favourite hotel, and which is my favourite hotel as well, the Ron Beach.
Yeah.
We know that each of the rooms look out onto the Sea of Galilee.
Wonderful, that.
And I still have the excitement of putting my head down that night after a long journey. Next morning, waking up, drawing back the curtains, and there is the Sea of Galilee. And if you're fortunate enough, right at that time, what happens is a boat is crossing the sea with pilgrims, just like we would get that opportunity to do as well.
What's incredible, isn't it, Anne, as we're driving up from the airport, when you start seeing signs for Jerusalem and Galilee, you think these places are real.
And Tiberias,
And tell me, it's very, very special. Yeah, so we're up in the Ron Beach. Other hotels available as well, obviously.
Oh yeah, the Leonardo. That's another favourite of mine.
So there. What will we do on the first? What will we do when we're up in Galilee?
Well, we get up and we have the most delicious Israeli breakfast with everything that is home products, really, because of course we know that these kibbutz supply a lot of the major hotels, so you're able to have the fresh fruit, you're able to have the oranges and the bananas, and the honey is absolutely delicious. We have the full Israeli breakfast, but we have the excitement then of making sure everybody is ready for the day, because you know that we don't go back to the hotel until about 5 or 5:30 that afternoon. Busy days. Make sure everybody drinks plenty of water, because the worst thing that can happen, of course, on one of these pilgrimages is dehydration. So we take our water, we have a good breakfast, we head out onto the coach, and we're accompanied by our guide. And of course, you have to, in the Holy Land, have a qualified guide with you. My role, working for presently Northern Star, is to be the Northern Star representative, to make sure that we have everything that we've booked, that the hotel suits our needs, the food is suitable for everybody, because of course we know that everybody has different dietary requirements. And so once we get on that coach and we get introduced to our driver and our guide introduces him in again, we head around the Sea of Galilee, because we head to board. Usually the first thing we do is go on that wonderful boat ride, Father Chris.
Yeah, tell everyone it's wonderful.
Now, I was trying to remember, when we went last time, did you celebrate Mass on the boat?
We did celebrate Mass on there, yes.
Because that, again, is one of the beauties of the Holy Land, to be able to celebrate Mass together on the boat.
Incredible privilege, yeah.
Captain cuts the engine.
Oh, I thought you were going to say his name was called Captain Cut.
No.
Did you think that, John?
I did.
Well, the captain.
Wait, you've been 70 odd times.
Yeah.
You know the name
Well,
of
the captain cuts the engine. We have that silence, and you can see. That's something we've only been doing like the last 5 or 6 years, celebrating Mass on the boat.
I think it's one of the absolute highlights for anybody who goes to the Holy Land.
It's one of the musts, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, as all good Catholics, we save on the collection as well, don't we?
Did we not have a collection?
No, we didn't have a collection.
Missed out there.
Yeah. So no, it's just wonderful, the peace and the quiet. And what I like most of all is I just like just gazing out. You know?
So you see, the thing about the Sea of Galilee, it's also called Lake Tiberias, if people get a little bit confused. And it's about the size of one of the Lake District lakes. Would you say? Maybe that sort of, you know, just so people can get in their mind what sort of scale is. And the wind really can pick up on that lake.
It can, because it's not tidal. So
No.
when we go to the scriptures and we read about the storm, it wasn't because it was tidal, it was because the wind, because of the mountain range, would whip up. And that is when storms would be created. So
because you got the Golan Heights on one side.
you have, yeah. And no, it's just a wonderful. But what we have to remember as well is that to the Israelis, the Sea of Galilee is also recreation.
It is.
So basically, what they tend to do is they tend to halve it. So we start in the centre of the lake, if you like, and we go up to the north, where if you go down south, that's where you'll come across your water skiers, windsurfers, because to them the lake, like the Lake District does to us, it's recreation. But we manage, because we have the peace and the quiet and the tranquility of heading up towards Capernaum.
And remember that Capernaum was where, when Jesus began his public ministry, he moved to Capernaum, and Capernaum was very important because it was a crossroads for trade, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And we also know that that's, again, Peter's mother-in-law.
We see the house, don't we?
We see the house, and we see the centurion.
Yeah. Not the same centurion, John.
But it's just wonderful. But it is also wonderful. I have fond memories because, as you can imagine, I've taken many people to the Holy Land. But I have fond memories of my ex-parish priest, who you were very fond of as well, Father Pat Keane.
Oh, who I was on placement with, who looked after me very well.
That's right. Yeah, and I have fond memories of him just sitting in the ruins of the synagogue and gathering us all round and teaching and preaching to us. And so you go to these places in the Holy Land and you bring back so many memories, and it doesn't matter how many times. I'm privileged. I know I am.
But you see, that synagogue, there's the ruins of that, of the 4th century synagogue, which are actually directly on top of the 1st century synagogue. So that means that when we're walking around those ruins, that is where Jesus really did preach and teach.
That's right. Yeah.
So when we read the scriptures there, it brings them to life in an extraordinary way then, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And, you know, we use this phrase, the scriptures come alive. Well, they truly do. When you come home, everything has just a different... You're able to put the pattern into your head and you're able to follow. So then once we've left Capernaum, which is quite a peaceful place, we make our way then to Loaves and Fishes, to Tabka.
Oh, yeah. Tabitha, yeah.
Yeah. Now that is wonderful, because when you get down to the Loaves and the Fishes, you have the most beautiful, quiet church. And I'm always amused, because this is the first opportunity the pilgrims get to light a candle. Because it's very rare that the churches in the Holy Land have votive candles.
Right, missed a trick there.
Yeah, but when you get to Tabka, you can see the pilgrims usually all just flock round the 2 icons where you can to light the candle. So, and then once leaving there, we just take a few hundred yards and we head to the primacy of Peter.
Yeah.
And that's where we're able to paddle. If you remember, we went right down to the seashore.
We did. We did.
And we collected
and that was incredible.
Yeah.
Because the views around there won't have changed much in the last 2,000 years.
No.
Will they?
No. You
And
could
that's
sit there
okay.
all day and just meditate, dream,
Yeah.
and just
And imagine that you're back there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we visited Capernaum. We visited the loaves and the fishes.
Oh, you know the loaves and the fishes?
Yes.
I've just remembered something like that. You do remember the mosaic in front of the altar?
Yes.
It's got 2 fish and 4 loaves. And the idea is that the other loaf, because it's meant to be the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, that account, is the Eucharist.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it like that.
Yeah.
Just in case that comes up on a quiz, John, you can
It's
know
very
that.
good. I had a quick Google actually of all the sites, and there's real big churches, isn't there? Really, on all these little places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and they go around the top of the top of Galilee, of the Sea of Galilee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been there.
We have, and then
Is that the full day then?
No, it's not, because that's we're only still mid-morning really, because
Are we?
but what we forgot to say is what time we usually start, and we're usually on the bus for 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's
Be a
early,
challenge,
John.
that.
There's John, there's 2 half-7s in the day. You know that.
And then the last
I'll be in trouble for that one.
the last site, well, you're in trouble all the time, Father Chris.
Always.
But then the last site, of course, is Beatitudes.
Oh, read the gospel yesterday. Yeah, wonderful.
And of course, this is a site which attracts, or has the space to attract, hundreds and hundreds of pilgrims. So this is the only place where, if you remember, the sister who was in charge was very strict with us.
Oh, yeah.
And has to keep telling us to shh.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that was everyone, not just us, John. We weren't
Oh
talking.
no, not just
It's like
us,
the
John.
Lewis
It
police,
was,
isn't it?
She was-
In the domain.
yeah.
Yeah. But she was strict, but not just with
Right.
us.
Oh no,
Just
no,
to make that clear.
no. And you've also got as well, which always amuses me. They see what the first shop, and so of course, in the Holy Land, there's 2 things that attract the pilgrims that we've taken over the years, Father. And one is the public facilities,
Yeah.
and the
You
second
need
is
them.
the shops.
Well, yes, absolutely.
So that morning,
But I mean, having before I went to the Holy Land, somebody brought me something back from Jerusalem, and it was incredible to think that that was from Jerusalem.
yeah.
So it is very special.
But you know, I've been many, many times, and each time I find something that is different. So this time,
Well, we'll get to you in your shops in Jerusalem.
No,
in a
but-
bit, don't worry.
no, but this time in
You know where to
Galilee,
shop.
when we got to Tabqa, the priest that was accompanying us, that was with us, he'd had some study in the Holy Land, and he took us with permission down a side pathway, and we celebrated Mass outside in the grounds of Tabqa. I've never been there in all my time. I've never been there.
Was that one of our priests from our
No,
days?
he was from Liverpool, but he was a religious order priest. I can't think which order
No,
it
it's
was.
okay. I'm just very impressed.
Yeah, but they all have the clergy that have been in the past. They all have their own special places that they want to visit.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been wonderful as well, because I've been introduced the last few years to different places, and you know, I do tend to store that and try and share it with people as well. So
You do.
That-
So we've been at the Beatitudes, which is an octagonal church,
yes,
isn't it? Because
it
it has each one of the Beatitudes, and you can see outside there are places like Jesus would have sat on a sort of mound, and people would have gathered round. And there's benches and things, and people sitting. It looks like that sort of teaching going on, doesn't it, around that?
Yeah, and it has the beautiful gardens, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, they're
Yeah.
lovely.
And on carved stone around the gardens, you have each of the Beatitudes, so you can follow around. Now, that does, the Beatitudes does have the opportunity, it does have a guest house.
Right?
I've never stayed at the guest house,
Gosh.
but it does have a guest house. But I would think you would have the beauty of looking onto the sea,
Yeah.
but it's very remote. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Blessed
yeah.
are those who book early, by the sound
That's
of it.
right.
And is the
Yeah.
Beatitudes, was that on Mount Tabor or not? Is that a different one?
No. Where Mount Tabor is going towards Nazareth.
Right. Which
John.
mount was it on a mount?
Well, when you're the best way to view it is when you're on the boat and you're looking in the direction that the boat is taking you, you can actually see. Yes, it was on a high
Yeah, it was
ground, a mount.
more like
Yeah.
raised ground rather than a
Right.
mountain.
It is.
Would that
You
be
get-
fair?
You get a better view of it of when you're on the boat.
Yeah.
But when you are looking down, the first thing people ask is, well, how would they have heard Jesus? Yeah. How would these vast crowds have heard what he had to say? And I suppose it's a little bit, somebody once said it could be a little bit like Chinese whispers, that people would have repeated,
Yeah.
what he'd said. Then some people say that Jesus was actually on a boat.
Well, he did
On-
teach sometimes on the boat, didn't he?
Yeah,
That
and then
yeah,
into
would
the
have
crowd.
carried out.
Yeah. So, no, it's a wonderful place. Very peaceful, very quiet. And again, it's a place where they have adoration of the Blessed Sacrament
Yeah,
in the church. So when we go in, we have to be extra quiet.
which we were.
Which,
So,
yeah.
right, go on. So we've done that now.
So we've done that.
Keep it
So
moving,
then
and
The guide then tries to talk the priest leader and myself, the group leader, to having a fish dinner. Now, do you remember?
I've had one of them.
That's right. So he'll say,
Peter's fish.
let's go for lunch. Let's go and have St. Peter's fish.
Mm.
Now, it works out about $20 to $25. So sometimes the group say yes, sometimes the group say no. But what we have to do then is just find somewhere to have lunch, because we have to have an hour's break and the guide and the driver have to have a break. So we go somewhere, we have some lunch. After lunch, we then go and visit somewhere that only opened in the last 12 months. And I would say again, it's one of the most beautiful places. It's
Who's
Mad-
that? Is that
Sorry
your-
about that.
That's all right. Answer it. See, it could be somebody who wants to go to the Holy Land.
Go on, Anne, you're all right. Sorry
All
about that.
So then after
Keep
we've
it in. They know it's live. Go on.
after we've had lunch, in recent last few pilgrimages, we've gone to Madala, Father.
I've heard about that, but we
Yes.
yeah. And what's it like?
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
Absolutely fantastic. Again, very peaceful, very
Oh,
quiet.
please God, I'd love to see
But
that.
the altar is actually the size of a fishing boat.
Right.
And the backdrop is total glass, and you look out onto the Sea of Galilee.
Wow.
They have different rooms where Mass can be celebrated downstairs.
Mm.
And they have the most beautiful painting, which you can look up on the internet. And it's, the woman who touched the hem of Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I think I've seen that one,
Absolutely.
unless it's around the world. Is it literally just like his ankles and she's touching her? Yeah.
That's right, yes. In his sandals. Yes. Well, to actually sit there on the cobblestones and just to gaze at this picture, absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
Wow. Maybe we could find that picture,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Let's put on that.
Yeah. Really.
So there. Okay.
lovely.
Now.
So then we then, depending on time, we might go into Tiberias and have a couple of free hours, because people do like a little bit of freedom. Then it's back to, we can't always every minute of the day be guided by the guide who would
Yeah.
want to take us into some shops.
Yeah,
and
but we
would
don't
want
go,
to do
do
some
we?
shopping. But
We don't
we've got plenty of time for that.
don't go.
I can't
to do
believe you're
some-
know
on
what we're doing,
the
so.
first morning of day one. How long's the pilgrimage, Anne?
The pilgrimage
About
is
7
8
hours on
days.
this recording.
Yeah,
Come
that
on,
is the
come on.
first day. We've really, in that first day, done the lakeside ministry of Jesus.
Yeah, which is good. Right.
Yeah.
So we've gone back. We've
We've
had
gone
a
back. We've gone back to our
couple of
hotel.
lemonades.
Yeah, we've had a few lemonades, and then
little
usually
stew.
after the evening meal, we usually meet, don't we, to say evening prayer together,
Evening prayer.
or just to reminisce about what we have covered that day.
Be pilgrims on the journey together.
Yeah.
Then
But
we'll- little-
I strongly recommend that people then put their heads down and
Yeah.
have a good night's sleep.
So you don't need to talk us through that. So next day,
So the next day, it's that lovely Israeli breakfast again.
honestly,
Oranges and bananas.
Back on the coach. Back on the coach by 7:30.
the oranges are off. Go on.
Yeah, back on the coach by 7:30, and making our way to the little village of the first miracle, to Cana.
To Cana, yeah.
To Cana, yes. And I've had fond memories of people asking me if I was married, or if they could fix me up with some. I could tell you some stories, but anyway.
We might do the story about Major Square in Bethlehem on that one.
Oh, we might do, yes.
Come on.
But anyway, we get to Cana, and there sometimes we renew marriage vows if that's what the people want.
Yeah.
We sometimes celebrate mass there.
Yeah.
But it's just a very small town.
It is really. Yeah, it's
Very small.
surprising in a way, but you
One
know.
way in and one
Do you
way
have any
out.
wine?
But but we actually then go for the hospitality because we go to a local shop called Daniel's, and he gives us all our free wine, doesn't he? And we all sample
Yeah.
the wedding feast of Canaan wine, as they like to say.
Yeah, like they said, normally they save the they save, they have the best first, but you save the best till last.
Yes.
Well, the stuff that we have is, say, fair to middling.
And if it's at the end of the pilgrimage and they're desperate for a glass of wine, then it's wonderful.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, go on.
So he says it as it is, doesn't he, Father Chris? So we spend only about an hour or so in Cana, because then we're heading to Nazareth,
Wow.
and I love Nazareth.
God.
Nazareth is wonderful. And so we head to Nazareth and to spend some time with our Blessed Lady and the Holy Family.
So the Church of the Annunciation.
So we go into the Church of the Annunciation. They say it nestles in Nazareth.
That's good. Bit of alliteration there, nestling in Nazareth.
And just to get an idea what the Church of the Annunciation looks like, to me, it's like Liverpool Cathedral. Not far off. Yeah. Even inside, it does.
Well, there's an upstairs and a downstairs, isn't there?
There is. Downstairs is where the cave is.
Yeah,
where
that's the bit
the
that
angel-
people. They all wanted to go again last time when you were with us, I remember. But they all wanted to go back to there, where there's actually the house of the Annunciation, where the angel appeared to Our Lady. It's very powerful. Something very special about that place.
It is. It's very powerful in the way of the silence, because you don't want to speak. You just want to try and walk past the cave to take a glimpse inside, and then just go and find a quiet spot to pray.
And I think one of the things we did there, remember, was to encourage everybody to try and be able to pray the word yes.
Yes.
In that place, because Our Lady is the ultimate yes to God. So I think there was a real focus when everybody was there doing that. So yeah, very.
And I can't remember, Father, whether you came with me to the Mary of Nazareth Centre.
We did go to. Did they do all that like guided tour thing?
That's right. The
they
Sound
went
and
through
Light.
different places.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
brilliant, John. You want to go on that? It's great. Like one of those interactive things. Not quite. Well, it is a sort of interactive. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we had lunch there, didn't we?
We did, and we had mass there as well.
We did, yes.
And if you remember, just after communion, it was midday, and all the bells rang for the Angelus.
Yeah.
And it's extraordinary in the Church of the Annunciation. You've got outside in big letters in Latin. You have the words of the Angelus, and then around the outside you have different images of Our Lady from all different parts of the world, which is very special as well, isn't it?
It is, because the image that is associated with England is upstairs to the left, and it's Our Lady of Walsingham.
Is there a thing that says the Word became flesh here? I heard. Is that right? Mm.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And yeah, absolutely wonderful. But as we leave the church, well, we go to the lower church first, which is where the cave is.
I like that bit.
Then we go to the upper church, which
It's
is
all right,
actually the upper church is actually the parish church of Nazareth.
Oh, well, that's nice for them.
So that's where the community would get married, have the children baptized, go to Sunday Mass on the upper.
Imagine
I know,
that being
it's not
your
bad, is
parish church. That is something.
It's almost as good as Bolton, that
Yeah.
Father.
Oh, you know, it's close.
I'm beginning to. John, are you in
I'm not,
Father's
no.
parish? Oh,
He'd like to be.
right. Something tells me
Private.
he's safer not being. But then, as we walk across the courtyard, Father, we go to the Church of St. Joseph.
Yes, of
And it
course.
was said that that is where Joseph had his workshop.
Yeah, I was looking at pictures the other day. You can see some of that, can't you? There's a clip.
You can.
Yeah.
And each of the stained glass windows are part of Joseph's life. Because, of course, as we travel the Holy Land, Joseph really doesn't get much of a look in.
Oh.
But when we get to Nazareth and we get to the Church of St. Joseph, the stained glass windows portray Joseph's life. Yeah.
Very important for our parish, because we've got St. Joseph's in part of the parish, but important for all of us.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've done Nazareth.
We've done Nazareth, and do you know, it's getting on to 4 o'clock now, because in Nazareth we tend to give people an hour and a half, because I think it's so important that they have their own personal prayer.
Yeah.
But before we leave Nazareth, we walk through the little market.
Oh, yeah.
And we go to the synagogue.
Ah, exactly, yes.
Yes.
And the wonderful thing about that is that I remember there were a whole group of school children once when I was there. And one time this little boy sat outside just the synagogue and thought, gosh, Jesus went to the synagogue when he was a child. And that was really struck me, actually. Yeah. You know, that's what we read about the word became flesh.
Yeah, and usually the gentleman who looks after the synagogue, who's a Christian, because the papal flag flies, strangely enough, over the synagogue, he will then recite the Our Father for us in Aramaic.
That's right.
Yeah, that was the language that Jesus would have spoken.
And of course, I mean, the privilege of going 3 times. Each time in the synagogue, we've read the words where Jesus stood up in the synagogue at Nazareth and read the bit from Isaiah. He sent me to bring the good news to the poor. Today, this is being fulfilled. Yeah, and reading that there is just extraordinary, you know.
Yeah, and that's the day, because then it's walking back down the hill and making our way back to the coach.
Yeah.
To get back to the hotel.
Yeah.
And you know, we're then starting to think of our journey then to Jerusalem.
To Jerusalem.
Because the next morning we would be leaving the Galilee region and heading towards the Holy City.
So that night, John, it's just buckaroo, karaoke and bed.
Well, not so much the karaoke, John. If I can put it into context, at the Ron Beach, they have a very large lounge where they serve tea and coffee. And it's all on quite comfortable settees and chairs.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no karaoke.
It's a bit more civilised than that.
Please. It's very more civilised.
I don't think John believed me for a minute.
No.
Not like Benidorm.
Anyway,
No.
you didn't say there was no buckaroo, though. Anyway, go on.
Right.
Next day,
So then,
Jerusalem.
So then it's about then starting to pack our bags, saying goodbye. That is one of the nights, and this happens to me all the time, is I can't draw my curtains because I want to wake up.
But you broke them.
Still seeing Galilee.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. Galilee for me is the most beautiful place in the Holy Land, and it's one place where, you know,
it's hard to leave the places, isn't it?
It's very hard to leave the place.
There's something real poignancy, bittersweet about having to leave them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've drawn your curtains in the end.
So I haven't drawn my curtains. I've got up the next morning.
Honestly,
I've got up even earlier because I just want to take in a little bit more of the Sea of Galilee, have our breakfast, load our bus, say our thanks to the hotel, because it is customary in the Israeli hotels to leave a tip.
Well, you said to say thank you. It's customary.
To say,
everybody
yeah,
does that.
to say thank you. And then we make our way down to Jerusalem.